The Atlanta Story is a podcast highlighting Atlanta's most interesting creators, entrepreneurs, and builders. I'm JC Lucas with Atlanta Ventures and co-producer alongside John Birdsong. In today's episode, John sits down with professional golfer, podcaster, and burgeoning businessman Roberto Castro. Roberto was a four-time All-American at Georgia Tech who studied industrial engineering before turning pro. In today's episode, we talk about his experiences and insights from the PGA Tour, how his curiosity in business is pulling him towards creative outlets such as podcasting, and about his continual hot takes on Twitter. Roberto also elaborates on growth opportunities in the golf space, the pros and cons of golf in Atlanta, and much, much more. We hope you enjoy the show and subscribe to The Atlanta Story.
Roberto Castro, born and raised in Atlanta, went to school in Atlanta, live in Atlanta. Welcome to the Atlanta Story podcast.
Thanks for having me, John.
You graduated from a local school, went to a four-time All-American at Georgia Tech. What brought you to Georgia Tech, and why did you stay here for the golf?
We moved to Alpharetta the year after the Olympics from Louisiana, and so went to high school at Milton High School. Playing golf at Georgia Tech was a big goal. Got lucky to be a part of that program and stuck.
Was there anywhere else you looked?
I looked at Georgia.
Okay.
I did. I took a couple visits to Georgia. They have an incredible program, super successful, along with Tech. Tech was a good fit for me. It was the right decision. And stuck around since then. I lived in Brookhaven. I lived in Buckhead. I lived in Peachtree Hills. It's just been a really good place for me to do the things I wanted to do.
The golf in Atlanta, Georgia Tech has kind of some secret access and assets. I mean, when you drive on 14th Street and you're going west and you look to the right and you see just this huge area that has bunkers and greens. I know for years I asked myself, what is that? Who has access to that? And then only to find out later, oh, that makes sense. It's Georgia Tech's. What is that?
So that's Georgia Tech Golf's practice facility. It's called the Noonan Golf Facility. When I was being recruited, it was basically just a driving range. So a big field you could hit golf balls right off 14th Street. And everything to the north of it was an abandoned steel mill. It was just like industrial decay.
Now it's big apartments. And
now it's Atlantic Station. And it's been hemmed in by apartments. And I mean, like, if you take a 20 handicap out there, they're going to clank some balls off of apartments. But it's been renovated. It's a 6-hole short golf course now. You can still hit drivers if you're practicing. But thanks to the generosity of people like Tom Noonan and all of our other donors, the golf team has access to it, some select donors. It's really, in my opinion, one of the coolest urban golf settings in America because it is really right in the middle of a city of 5-6 million people. It's really cool. Does it
move the needle in recruiting?
100%, especially because I think USC faces something similar, Atlanta, Georgia Tech. Getting from campus to a golf course can be a bit of a drive. And if you're going in rush hour, you might sit in the car. So being able to tell recruits that you can roll out of your dorm room, you're a mile and a half, 5 minutes from a world-class practice facility is a huge recruiting tool.
Yeah. So PGA Tour, why Atlanta is, there's pros and cons for a professional golfer, right? I mean, just in the state of Georgia, you've got a cadre of professionals down in South Georgia who, whether it's Sea Island or where they're focused, and in Atlanta, there's a few. But what are the pros and cons in Atlanta of being a professional golfer and the resources here?
No, it's a good question. I think one of the big pros compared to Jupiter and Arizona is that we really are well taken care of here in Atlanta. There's enough tour players that we can get together and have games, but there's few enough that clubs really take you in, and they're excited to have a PGA Tour player at their club. It's understandable, but down in Jupiter, they'd have 60, 80 guys at a club, so they're not as welcoming. In Atlanta, it's like, oh, there's Vince Whaley. He's a young kid out of Georgia Tech. He's on the tour. He plays at my club. And they love that. And that's not the case at some of the other bigger golf meccas. Another great thing is the airport. obviously. Direct flight anywhere. I would get home on Sunday night after events if I was middle of the pack, and I'd be having dinner at 6 o'clock and run into somebody and they'd say, "Oh, did you net jets back?" I was like, "No, Delta has a direct flight every 90 minutes everywhere." So that was huge. One of the cons that I think people wouldn't think about is that it's never windy here. And something I completely underestimated was how much wind the tour plays in. And I had a hard time with that. I got better as my career went on. But if I had to do it all over again, I would go spend 6 weeks down in South Florida every year to really learn how to play in the wind. It's really kind of a weird thing, but it's important.
You're an engineer, obviously, Georgia Tech. What are there any kind of golf hacks that, I mean, obviously you had the infrastructure of Georgia Tech, but I mean, being around, I mean, you saw the Bobby Jones transition. You saw we've all done countless rounds of golf ranging from Cross Creek to what are some hacks that growing up in the city that you can give someone who's like, all right, well, I just moved to Atlanta and I'm trying to figure out some shortcuts.
That's a tough one. I've seen both sides of the coin. When I was in high school, when we moved to Atlanta, we played at River Pines, which is totally public. Buy a basket of balls, maybe play the par 3 course 2 or 3 times. For kids, I think it was $5 to play the par 3 course at River Pines back then. And then we joined a really small country club that's now been bulldozed over all the way up in Forsyth County called Lanier Golf Club. So I had never played at Golf Club of Georgia until I entered Georgia Tech, where the team has a membership. And then I've been embarrassingly privileged in golf since then. So Golf Club of Georgia, Eastlake, and since then playing professional golf. Yeah. I can't say that I'm an expert on the whole ecosystem now just because it's a joke. I play Bobby Jones every once in a while, but I would say a big hack in Atlanta is the places that are adjacent. So you're 90 minutes from the fields in LaGrange. You can get up to the farm, which is private, but in Dalton, it's a little more low key. You've got Old Toccoa, which is in North Georgia. You can go east to Lake Oconee and you can play Cuscawilla. You can go south to Auburn, play Grand National, the Robert Trent Jones golf courses. So I would say if you're moving to Atlanta, it's just really a cool opportunity to hop in the car, get a cup of coffee, and see a lot of great golf courses, which are within 2 hours of the city. Yeah.
You talked about some of the experiences on tour. I saw a tweet last week where you thanked Zalatorius for breaking one of your course records. So how does it feel to have a course record stolen from you?
It doesn't feel good. I'm holding on to a few things at this point. Okay, he took one away from me.
Were you leaderboard watching?
No, I wasn't. I don't remember what I was doing, but
did you have a push notification sent to you?
I should set up some sort of system where I find out where I'm losing my very limited significance is being eroded.
How many do you have out there right now?
I had the one in Mississippi. I'm still tied at TPC Sawgrass.
Ooh,
I have the other course at Sawgrass too.
Nice.
Dyes Valley. And I have one in Charlotte at a place called River Run.
Okay.
Yeah, but I deserve it. So Andy Ogletree and Vince Whaley were both playing in the Sanderson Farms, young guys on tour from Georgia Tech. Andy won the U.S. Amateur. So they shot 5 and 6 under, I think, the first round. And I sent him a text. I said, "Good playing, boys. If you'd have done 4 or 5 better, you could have tied a Legends course record." And the next day,
Zalatorius,
he breaks it. Yeah. So they obviously fired right back and like, "You used to have the course record." I was like, damn it.
Oh, man. So what were some of your favorite tour stops throughout obviously TPC?
Sawgrass is great. Charlotte is great. It felt like a hometown event. Eastlake is the hometown event, but tough to get into that one every year. So Quail Hollow is amazing. Pebble Beach is amazing. Torrey Pines. It's really places I have good memories of traveling with my wife or when we had kids, traveling with our first daughter. So just those places you found great dinner spots that you went to year after year. In Del Mar, California, there's a little breakfast place called Cafe Americana. And you just have great memories of a place like that. So love Torrey, but a lot of the memories have a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And your interests keep pulling you towards things that augment the game. So you've got a podcast, the Course Record Show. What? And I love how you've framed that, where it's you're a golfer trying to learn business, and then your co-host is a businessman trying to learn golf. Where did that creative inspiration spawn? And tell us more about the podcast.
No, you nailed it. Those are the roles we play, and really we saw an uncovered niche, which is rare in podcasting because there's a lot of content out there. But there's plenty of the talk about the tour podcasts, and there's plenty of great podcasts around business with people that love golf. So David Novak's is about leadership, and a lot of that is, okay, I'm going to have the CEO of Home Depot on. He's a passionate golfer, but he's not in the golf business. Mm-hmm. So ours is people that are in the golf business. So it's specifically that niche, and it's been well received so far. We've had some really interesting guests that are in different facets of the business, but honestly, it's just a natural intersection. What goes together better than business and golf? So it's been a really fun project. Well,
we're seeing that at Atlanta Ventures, the business side of golf, and with Intown Golf Club. So we feel you there.
Exactly.
The on the podcast side, you've had anyone from Chad Parker, who's GM at Eastlake, to one of the owners of Pebble Beach. Where do you see that show kind of continuing to form, and will you continue to get folks that are? What's the vision for that show?
Yeah, we started thinking about doing chapters. So we released 3 or 4 episodes to start, and they were loosely centered around professional golf. And you could go to facilities from there, and then you could go to equipment manufacturers, or you could go to governing bodies, PGA of America, state golf associations, USGA. So we're not necessarily doing chapters now, but I feel like we find a guest and then we start to pull a thread off that guest. So our last guest is involved in golf travel. He has a background in PGA of America. Our next guest runs the Mass Golf, the Massachusetts Golf Association. So we just kind of keep the ball rolling that way.
Some of your favorite golf podcasts? Everyone, a lot of folks who are going to be listening to this.
Yeah.
I've probably heard of Barstool, Foreplay Pod, No Laying Up. Any ones that
There's none that I listen to every episode, but I will check in, and Andy Fried Egg does a great job. I really like a lot of his things. No Laying Up, the weekly tour recaps don't really interest me, but the one they did where they recapped the Ryder Cup at Kiowa was really, really well done, and a ton of work, I'm sure. So those more editorial ones really interest me.
The Ryder Cup at Kiowa in
90.
Oh, 93. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
okay.
did a whole 2-hour podcast on that Ryder Cup. And really the most interesting part was the lead up to it. The fact that golf course opened 2 weeks before the Ryder Cup, and 12 months before the Ryder Cup, a hurricane flipped the whole property upside down and they had to start over. It's really a crazy story. So that's a must listen.
As you are seeing what's around the curve from the golf perspective, where do you see the opportunities, or what interests you on the business side of golf personally?
I think the most interesting question to be answered is around utilization. That might be the industrial engineer in me, but I think that over the next 50 years, utilization of golf courses and facilities is going to be the most interesting question to answer, because land is at a premium, and having a golf course sit empty for so many hours of the day, or how do you get the most out of it?
Are you alluding to night golf now?
Night golf.
Because that's really happened. I mean, Sweetens Cove has been doing it. Night golf is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's as a bigger picture, how do you utilize water? That's something the USGA is on a ton. How do you get, even if you have a full membership, how do you get everyone involved and everyone feels like they have access to the golf course? So really just making the most of the facilities that we have. Because look at Atlanta. we're not going to put another golf course inside the perimeter ever. I mean, I don't like to use never or ever, but I don't think we're building another golf course inside the perimeter. So we're going to have to utilize the ones we have a lot better than we're doing now.
What is your take on non-green grass golf?
I'm super interested in it. We keep pinging people about it on our podcast. One of our lightning round questions is always buy or sell simulator golf. And I think it's a huge growth opportunity. I think to answer the second part of your previous question, anything that is targeted towards non-golfers has the most growth opportunity, because the USGA and how many people have handicaps and are serious golfers is going to grow, and it has through COVID for sure. But expanding beyond that, what Topgolf is doing, what you guys are trying to do at Intown, Topgolf to me has the biggest opportunity because they're the most global, and they're bringing people who are not core golfers into the game. And maybe they don't get into the game where they join a country club one day, but they're involved in a certain way now. So I think the more global you can be and the more general interest appeal you have, the more opportunity you have.
Does it surprise you when Topgolf pops up in a city that you're just like, I'm just amazed that Topgolf went to so-and-so city?
I guess, like Augusta, they have one in Augusta now. Augusta's not a big town, but there's demand for it, I think. And it's social. People are dying for connection. They're dying to feel like they're a part of something. And you can't have a bad experience there, I don't think, right? Yeah. Food, drinks, the ability to get outside and do something athletic, but where you're not playing basketball. Yeah. So it's a great product.
And we're going to take a quick break here and share that this podcast is brought to you by Atlanta Ventures. If you are looking to start the next $300 million business out of Atlanta, check out the studio at atlantaventures.com. Is there someone on tour, whether they're currently playing or not, that has a very good business sense, right? Is there a, I mean, you think of all the great golfers who have done something wonderful in business. Obviously, Arnold Palmer, probably the greatest, right? His partnership with IMG. But what today, is there anything where it's like that person's really plugged in?
I would say before our generation, you'd have to say Greg Norman, but I wasn't around to watch that as closely. So we'll put him as behind Palmer.
But like he's doing wines and everything.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to look at it. If the guy's got a G550 and he was world number one, but come on, he's done some legit things off the golf course. I think Phil Mickelson today, for sure. I think I noticed it my rookie year on tour. He had finished, he always started at Palm Springs and then Torrey Pines. And he finished 50th in Palm Springs my rookie year. And then he's like in 50th place at Torrey Pines. And he gives some interview where he talks about how he's going to leave California because of the state taxes. So he's on the cover of the Wall Street Journal the next day. And I don't think that was an accident. He wanted to be relevant, and normally he is because he's winning tournaments. But he's 2 weeks into a new season. He's not getting any coverage at all. So he eventually did leave California, but it was 10 years later. He wasn't moving. He just wanted to be in the conversation. And you saw—
So good at PR.
Great at PR. And you saw 2 or 3 years ago, he had no social media. Was not on Twitter, was not on Instagram.
Yep.
2 or 3 years ago, he's 47, 48 at the time. Phil knows how good he is. He knows that his playing career is winding down and he's getting ready for the next thing. Joins Twitter, joins Instagram, and is incredible at it. Engaging, he's funny. Authentic. And he starts doing the coffee thing, launches the coffee company. Now he wins the PGA, which I don't even think he expected to win another major. I mean, I'm sure he did. But
did I read that he only had one? He had one top 10 in 2020, and it was the PGA that he won.
I think that's right, and it doesn't surprise me because he's one of the 5 best players of all time. But he was really preparing for the next thing, and he still is. He's really smart business guy, I think, without having to tell you that he's smart. Yeah. He's just playing the puppet master, and he's got us all following along with his life, and that's you can monetize that.
And so that's smart from a PR brand perspective. But what about any folks who are doing investments, or I think it was Lucas Glover who does who flips houses on the side, or any folks who are less PR and more looking at opportunities adjacent to the community or to the golf world.
I think it's more people that have planned for their next career after golf. Bryce Mulder is another Georgia Tech guy, had a lot of interest in real estate.
Yes.
Retired from the tour fairly young and is doing great in real estate. Joe Ogilvy, he was on our podcast. Incredible relationship builder. Did it his whole career on the tour. Now does asset management and is doing great. And then guys that under the radar, John Mallinger was early on with Travis Matthews. Those were his buddies in Long Beach, was a big investor in Travis Matthews and did really well when they sold to Callaway. So guys are looking for opportunities. Even these young kids, Vince Whaley, who's out of Tech, third year on tour. I think he has 1 or 2 rental properties now. He bought a rental property before he bought a house for himself.
There you go.
So again, back to our original, golf and business intersect. If you're smart enough to open your ears and talk to these really, really bright people that you get access to through golf, you can learn a lot and I think make some smart moves.
Did you view the kind of Wednesday pro-ams as opportunities or more as a way to just get a practice round in?
A little bit of both. I keep in touch with some of those folks. I think inevitably when you are moving on to the next thing, you wish you had kept in closer touch with some of those folks. But the flip side of that is you're 18 hours removed from playing in a professional sporting event. So your focus, and it's $1 million to the guy who wins.
Yeah.
So I think rightfully so, the focus there shouldn't necessarily.
You're not looking at 55, 60 years old and I get it.
Right. You're not looking at that day as a business development opportunity.
So on Twitter, you've got some really good hot takes. Dare I call you a thought leader? But I think after 10,000 followers, you're a thought leader. So I checked this morning. You're almost there, and
I think I lost some. Then I don't know. I was surprised.
It was the Jacksonville Jaguars tweet.
Oh yeah, I lost all my Jags fans.
Yeah, but you're opinionated on Twitter. I think. Obviously, thanking Zalatoris on stealing the course record is a good example. You had one about leaf blowers that just get you riled up. Are you just Sunday afternoon, perusing, scrolling on Twitter and Instagram, and just where did some of these takes come? And by the way, please share your Twitter handle.
Oh yeah, the Twitter is at Chicho Castro, CICIO Castro. And, I try to not have it on my phone, so I don't have the app on my phone.
Okay.
I can log in on my phone. So I'll go days without tweeting anything because I don't have it on my phone, so I don't just get distracted. But really, I'll let things marinate for a while before I tweet them.
So very premeditated.
I guess they're very premeditated. And I don't spend all day thinking about I should tweet this in 3 days. But
do you have a draft of things?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I really don't. But I really try to stick to things that I know something about. I think that it can be, I have a friend who says that professional athletes think they're an expert at one thing, so they assume they're an expert at other things. So I think the COVID thing has been, tragic and fascinating, but I'm not really going to chime in on public health. What do I know about public health? I can have my own opinions and we can talk about that, but I don't need to tweet about those things. So sports, business, business of golf.
When you're tweeting about why last month's Ryder Cup was one of the greatest ones, people are going to pay attention.
Right. Yeah, that's something I feel like credibility is huge. Right. So I think I try to stick to things I have some credibility.
What did it for you in the Ryder Cup last month that just... It felt to me like the tides were turned. Now everyone's rooting, everyone was always rooting for the United States, at least over here, maybe except for the no laying up guys. But what felt different to you about that Ryder Cup?
I think the guys on that team are very likable, which I think matters in all sports and everything.
But Phil's likable, Tiger's likable.
Yeah, but those guys became so much bigger than the rest of the team. They were so much more famous and much more significant, and everyone kind of knew that they weren't buddies. I don't know. I think that
that's a fair take.
The game has gotten younger. Harris English was the second oldest player on the team. So I think people like new faces. They like young energy.
When DJ's 37 and the oldest.
That's right.
And that is you saw his name on growing up, you know, like competing head to head.
Right. The venue was incredible too, and the coverage was amazing. The drone shots and the stuff from the lake, and it just was it really popped. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
And they're so good. When you have 9 of the top 10 players in the world, it's just fun to watch. Just fun to watch that talent level.
Yeah. It'll be interesting 2 years from now. I guess in Rome when we'll see if we can win on not home soil.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to win the next 10. I'd be interested to put it on paper right now who will be on the next team, because it's always shocking how even as good as those 12 guys are, like, of course I'm going to bet that Xander's going to be on the team, and it's tough. It's tough to make those teams, and I think Xander finished Spieth finished 7th and needed a pick. It's really tough. So I think it'll be new blood, and the Europeans have a lot of good young players. It's Justin Herbert kid. There's some young guys that weren't even in the consideration for this team that'll be really top 25 players by next Ryder Cup.
So as you've continued to write and really evolve the Castro Consulting Group, you came out with which I thought was really smart, but it was the talk of the Atlanta golfing town of your top 10 courses in Georgia. Can you just elaborate a little bit on how you did that? What framework you used? Because obviously there's Augusta. That was like tier 1. Augusta and Peachtree.
Yep.
Tier 1.
Yeah.
And you did it in tiers, which I thought was smart.
That's right. I didn't rank them. I did them in tiers, and it was honestly not that premeditated either. It was probably 1 extra cup of coffee. And I took like 2 days. I rewrote it 2 or 3 times.
Did you get any text messages?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got lots. And I tried not to. So Bryce Mulder wants to do like a insiders list or something like that. And the reason we haven't is it's hard to not offend people, right? And I try to stay positive in all walks of life. So saying that place is overrated or the 18th hole at Cypress is terrible, that's not my opinion. But it's just not, there's no upside there.
Yeah.
So I thought about it really simply. My criteria for ranking golf courses has one question. If tomorrow was my last round of golf I would ever play, where would I choose to play? It's that simple for me. I understand template holes and I understand architecture and whatever, but that's my first, second, third, last criteria.
That's a great criteria.
So that's how I approached the Georgia rankings.
And can you just go through the list real quick?
You'd have to pull it up. I know.
We'll link it.
I put Peachtree and Augusta in tier 1, which I think is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then below that, I think I had Setting Down and Ocean Forest, maybe.
A Hoopy,
maybe. Yeah. It's, again, we're starting to split hairs. All these places are great. And there's some places I haven't played. I've never played Atlanta Country Club. I got a lot of text. That's where I got the most text about. Friends and friends of friends and people on social media that were like, I'll take you to Atlanta Country Club, which is very generous. I live like 4 miles from, 6 miles from there. I've just never been there. I've been there for dinner and for a couple things, but I've never played the golf course. So it's a very non-comprehensive list if you haven't played one of the widely considered best courses in town.
Well, it was definitely the talk of the town for a week or so, and let's talk about Castro Consulting Group. What is the some of the stuff that you're interested in ranges from logo. So you did the design for Georgia State Golf Association's 100-year amateur.
That's
Is that right?
Yep, 100th state amateur last year.
you have this knack for design and branding, and it's obviously pulling you. What are some other interests along with that? And
Yeah, it really started, stop me if you've heard this in your world. My brother and I started 5 years ago, really focused on coaching, and it kind of shifted from there. He got into college coaching. He's now out of the golf business. But I had been doing graphic design for friends and family for a few years, and I said, hey, let me put this out there to the world. And my phone started ringing, and those projects were really fun. Working with the GSGA, did kind of a fun project with the PGA Tour. That stuff is really fun. And then I love merchandise and apparel, so there's an angle there where if you want to use some of those designs, I can help you source stuff, whether it's for a Greengrass account or a guy's trip. Again, really fun. And then it really built from there into just how are people monetizing golf? How are they in the golf business? So I've been spending most of my time recently with a technology consulting company called CapTech, and they are very involved in marketing in golf and also delivering for golf clients. So they're doing some really interesting work around gaming and gambling. They're doing some work around customer experience for U.S. Kids Golf and First Tee and really helping people solve problems in golf. So that was a natural fit, and it's really exciting, and I'm learning a lot. So
on the consulting front, and this may allude to some market opportunities, but talk to us about just golf trips, golf travel, right? What, for someone who's traveled, has spent a decade traveling the world playing golf, what are some tips on just golf travel, places people have to go?
I think one tip is Pebble Beach is worth the money. Definitely go to Pebble Beach. But, I think the opportunity in golf travel that's uncovered right now is around the PGA Tour. I think that people ask me after my rookie year, what's cool about the tour? How was it? Every tournament has a very unique personality and a unique culture. So at Torrey Pines, it's Southern California. People are just dying to get outside. It's not really core golf fans, just a bunch of people who are hiking on Saturday, and Sunday they're going to go watch the golf tournament. Colonial has a really cool Fort Worth vibe, right? Charlotte is a very elevated experience. It's sundresses and Quail Hollow is first class. And all these cities are really cool too. So I think the tour should, or a travel company,
wrap that experience.
Yes. And I think if you're a core golf fan, right now it's all about golf trips, right? Because of social media, it's really popular. So I need to go see Sand Valley. I need to go see Stream Song. I need to go see Bandon. I think you could do the same exact thing with the tour. I told my buddies, if you're a golf fan, you should pick one tournament a year, grab some buddies, and go. Because going to Fort Worth in May is a ton of fun. Great town in general. Play a round of golf somewhere, go to the tournament one day, 2-day trip, 3-day trip, and then next year, go to Torrey Pines. The next year, go to Memorial. Columbus, Ohio is amazing.
That's a great idea.
There's tons of golf, and I think the tour should do it. I think they should buy a golf course adjacent for the week. So at Memorial, go buy Scioto for the week and have groups come in. Go to the Memorial, play Scioto, go to a great dinner downtown. It's all prepackaged deal. I think it's a huge, huge opportunity.
That's a great idea. Anything that the average golfer should know about the tour but doesn't, or just tour life? And you're also, wife, kids. I know that's a huge priority to you. What's it pre, family and then kind of post family, right?
It's very different. I think I listened to an interview, maybe No Laying Up with Graham McDowell, where he articulated it very well by saying, until I had kids, there was nowhere in the world I would rather be than playing golf or playing a golf tournament. And then you wake up one day and it's your job and you still love it. But the answer to that is probably different. There is a place you'd rather be than Moline, Illinois in July. You might rather be with your kids and your family. And trying to live with that or figure out how you make that work mentally so you're excited to do both is something that I think all players have to deal with. But I think a lot of feedback, things that people don't know is that it's a Monday to Sunday job. It's not a business trip where you go Monday to Thursday.
Not a lunch to lunch.
It's not a lunch to lunch. It's not an overnight meeting in Dallas. It's Monday to Sunday, and it's frequently, you become desensitized to it on the tour, but you're in player dining. It's like, hey, John, what are you playing? Oh, I'm doing the next 3. Oh, nice. I'm playing 2, then 2 off, then the next 3. That's like, you don't hear that in business circles where you say, oh, I'm going on a 21-day business trip, then I'm home for a week, then I'm going on another 21. So it's a really relentless travel schedule. Like my wife and I would get have friends come to tournaments Sunday afternoon. They would, hey, it was great to see you. They'd come watch and they would be like, we are exhausted. Like, are you going to another one? It's like, yeah, our bags are packed. We're going straight to the airport and flying to the next tournament. And you keep doing that for 10 or 11 months. And then on the golf side, I think the thing people will never understand is how hard the golf courses are on tour. You turn on the Golf Channel every Thursday. Oh, somebody shot 9 under at the tournament this week. Another easy golf course. These guys are just shooting. The golf course is extremely difficult. PGA Tour golf courses are so, so tough. Even the ones where 20 under wins every week on tour. 18 to 22 under. That is on a very difficult golf course. Somebody shot 20 under.
Well, Roberto, we're coming up on time. I want to thank you for your time today. We always end the conversation with 2 questions: why Atlanta, and what has Atlanta done for you?
I think Atlanta's been the land of opportunity for me. It really has. We moved here when I was starting high school, and I got opportunities I would have never had in Louisiana. Got to play golf at a great university, get a degree from a great university that's unique in the Atlanta culture. I received a ton of support playing professional golf. And now as I'm focusing on the next chapter professionally, I still see tons of opportunity in this city. So simply put, Atlanta really is a land of opportunity. And we all think it's grown so much. It's still growing. Companies are coming. Midtown is blowing up. A lot of it has to do with Georgia Tech and the talent that's here. You guys see that on your startup side. So it really is a great place to go find an opportunity and seize the day.
Roberto Castro, thank you for being part of the Atlanta Story podcast.
Thanks, John.
This podcast is brought to you by Atlanta Ventures. It was co-produced by JC Lucas and John Birdsong. If you are looking to start the next $300 million business in Atlanta, check out the studio at atlantaventures.com and the companies we work with who've done it before. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it at your next coffee meeting or dinner greeting, rate it, and write a benevolent, eloquent review.